tuning in. It's Val in Vancouver here. Happy to see everybody tuning in. So today I'm going to do another pour over. Like I mentioned in my last video, it seems to be what I'm most interested in doing right now. But before I get to that, I wanted to show you my last pour overs that I did. So here is the star. Now I haven't done anything else to it. It's not 100% dry, but it's touchable dry for the most part. So the star is definitely one of my favorites. I'm thinking I may do some outlining around the smaller items on these just to kind of make them pop even more. So let me just see here. And here is the little flowers, which I think turned out awesome also. Very, very cute. And of course, here are the hearts. So again, very, very cute. So, but I think I am going to be outlining the small items, the small shapes on top of the large, just to make them sort of pop a little bit more. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's going to be fun when it's done. Oh, and I just want to show you one more item. So I also love doing dot mandala paintings. I'm going to be doing a huge one soon, but this is my second mortar and pestle one that I did today. So there is the mortar. So it's basically the design is done twice on the base here, and then I did the smaller part of the design here on the pestle. So yeah, really, really liking that. Pretty awesome. Let me just move that out of the way. You definitely don't want it to get mucked up. So that's going to dry for a few more days or so, and then I will varnish that. But I actually I have ordered more varnish because I'm very, very, very low, and I'm trying to make up my paints for my next blob and dot mandala paintings and things like that. So I had to order some more of that, but that's okay. We'll get it soon. Okay, so this project, so I bought this little wooden sign at the dollar store. So it's sort of divided into 3 parts, and I've taped off all the back, and there is a string that comes up on it, but I just taped it under so it'll be protected and not get any paint on the string. So I've taped all that off, and I'm going to do it in sort of beachy colors, because after it's dry I'm going to stencil with this stencil on it saying swim with the mermaids, and then it's got, you know, also a little wave and maybe some sea shapes. So I'll work out how that's going to go on there, but hopefully I can fit it on there the way I want. So yeah, I'm excited about that. So like I said, I am using some beachy colors, but let me just put some gloves on here. These gloves are huge, but they're actually gloves from hair coloring kit, because I colored my hair the other day. I tend to color my hair, well, I've actually colored my hair a lot since I've been off with this pandemic, but that's okay. I washed the gloves and they're certainly still usable, even though they're quite big, because they're not meant to fit fantastically, these types of gloves, but I think I'll be able to manage. Okay, so the colors I'm using today, I am using just the Artist Loft acrylic flow acrylic white that I've mixed with Floetrol, and then I have some violet that I'd mixed before, some phthalo blue, and some aqua green. Those are all Artist Loft colors, and they're all mixed with my pouring medium, the glue and water mix. And then I'm going to use a bit of the chartreuse Deco Art Ready to Pour. So let's get started on that. Start off with some white there. Maybe a bit of bubbles in there because I just mixed all these. Finally got around to mixing up paints, especially white and black, that I had none of either of those. So yeah, I thought I'd make some beachy colors because I wanted to go with the beachy theme, and so I made it putting this in my bathroom, or I'll sell it if somebody is interested in it. So the wood was a little bit rough. I actually ended up having to sand it and sand the edges down a little bit to make it a little smoother so the paint won't snag on it. Luckily I happen to have a little bit of sandpaper here, so oops, sounds like that one's getting low. Okay, that should be enough paint. I haven't put a canvas under this one. Usually I do, or most of the time I do, put a canvas under my pores, and then I can use, you know, get a second paint project done out of the runoff paint, but I've chosen not to do that today for various reasons, not a big deal. So let's go ahead, there we go, let's go ahead and pour on here. It's going to be interesting because they're all different sections. Might actually have to do more paint in the cup, we'll see. Okay, I'm definitely going to do a little bit more paint. Excuse the noise. Yeah, sounds like that's almost out, and I know this stable blue is almost out. Jeez, they're all running out. Okay, that should be enough to finish it off. Got an awful lot of white there at the end. Okay, it is all covered. Very pretty. So that's looking pretty cool. But I'm going to see if I can tilt it a little bit this way just to get that, so I don't want all that white on the end there. So I'm just going to see if we can tilt it a bit. There we go. I like that better. So definitely more paint than I thought I was going to end up having run off, so perhaps I should have put a canvas underneath, but I didn't, and that's okay. I'll let this dry, or actually I'll dip some things into it before it dries, because on this puppy pea pad, once it dries, it's no good. But if I dip while it's still wet, then I'll get some pretty things. So yeah, I really, really like that. I think it's going to look really pretty when the words are stenciled on. Not sure yet whether I will stencil in maybe gold or dark blue, perhaps, something like that. I'm not sure yet. I'm just going to give this a little torch because there's lots of air bubbles in this. There we go. Alright, so let me just finish cleaning up here and we will bring you in for a close-up. This is going to be a quick video because obviously I can't show you the end result yet, but what I might do is, yeah, I'm going to bring you in for a close-up and then we will go from there. So let me just take this glove off so I can touch my camera and we'll be right back. Okay, so back, cleaned up and everything, and just let it sit for a couple minutes, and I'm going to scrape along the edges so that I don't lose too much, because I actually really like that right there. And I like how the torching has brought up all these cute little cells, pretty little spots. Looks pretty awesome. So let's take a look here. So this is the bottom little section. Love the lines and how distinctive the colors stayed. Like, look at that. That's just amazing. And then here is the middle section. So I love this set of lines here in the middle and this little section of spots right there. And this is really cool. Very, very pretty. I love this combination of colors. Definitely some of my favorite colors in here. Purple and the chartreuse. together. All right, and this is the top third of the section. I did take a little bit, just not a little, just poured the remainder that was in the cup on this top section a little bit, so I got more of the purple and white on there because this one, the top third there, was very chartreuse, so it was almost taking over of these lines here. So yeah, I'm very, very happy with this. And once it's dry, I'll go ahead and do the stenciling, and I'll bring you back for that. So we'll be back soon. Okay, so we're back. So this is nice and dry now, and now we're going to do the stencil on it that I mentioned earlier in the video. So I'm going to use Artist Loft Brilliant Blue as my stencil color, because I think it's going to be a nice contrast without being the sort of more traditional, for lack of a better word, gold that people tend to use for a lot of stenciling projects, but I want it to stand out and look nice and bold. So yeah, we're going to use that. I tend to use this lid. It's from these little containers that I had. That's perfect for a little paint palette holder because it's easy to clean. I've used it over and over and over again for projects, and it works really well. So I'm going to use some stencil brush here. I've got some nice stencil brushes here that you can see. So I've got a variety. I've got 4 different sizes, although probably going to use pretty much the whole size for this thing. But before I get started on that, I wanted to show you, I did this dip into the runoff on this little wooden disc, so that's just the back side. But I dipped it into the runoff from this project, and then I did stencil with gold, a nice little seashell shape that's from that stencil that I'm using for the rest of this project. So I thought I'd show you that first. It hasn't been varnished, but it is dry. So let's get started. So I'm going to be using this stencil I mentioned, Swim with the Mermaids, and not sure whether I'll be using any of the shells or the seashell or the stars or the wave type look yet. I'll decide that as I get going. So I'm going to start with the Swim with the on the top third section, and then I'll move the stencil where the mermaids will be directly in the middle, and then down this other third I'll either do some shapes, which these 3 shapes would actually work pretty well, or maybe I'll do the wave, but not both, obviously. So let's get started. Like I said, I'm using the phthalo blue, or sorry, the brilliant blue, and that. So usually, you know, you could tape your stencil, which I might actually do, just to help keep it in place. I'm still going to be holding it down with my hand where I'm working, though, just to make it better. And then let's make sure it's straight, because that would be great, and also that it's in the middle. So I'm going to move it up just a little bit. There we go. Oops, I just moved it. See how, don't want it to be not straight. And this painter's tape won't hurt the paint underneath, obviously, because it's not going to be on there too long. Okay, let's get started. So I'm using the second smallest or second largest, whichever way you want to look at it, stencil brush. I could use the smaller one for these letters because they are smaller. But this brush, for some reason, even though I cleaned it really well, obviously I didn't clean it enough, and it's a little bit stiff. Doesn't pounce as flexibly as I want it to. And then I have a paper towel here to be able to blot some of this on, because you don't want to use it too heavy, because otherwise you'll end up with it going under the stencil. So let's get started here. Hopefully you can see that okay. And you're just going to, if you haven't done stenciling before, you're just going to pounce thoroughly over the letters, firmly but not hard. Just want to make sure it's well covered. And you can always do a little bit more. It's better with stenciling to do less paint at first, and then you can always add more if you're feeling your coverage isn't enough. Okay, let's carry on. That's looking good. If you're not interested in watching this, I won't be offended if you fast forward to the end of the video, but I hope you at least look at the end of the video where you'll be able to see this completed. So I know it's not too exciting to watch somebody stenciling. But if you've never stenciled before, or you've been nervous maybe about stenciling on a pour that you've done, hopefully this will make you feel confident enough to try it, and that you'll get some technique if you aren't 100% sure. Okay, I am happy with that. Maybe just going to do a bit more on the word the. So I want to make sure it's going to be nice and easy for people to read. Okay. Now we're going to carefully take off the tape without moving the stencil. I'm just going to put them over here because I can certainly reuse them. In reality, I'm going to have to let that dry before I can do the word mermaids, because I have to move mermaids down here to the middle, but I don't want to have the stencil resting on the wet paint. So we'll just pull this up carefully. And there we go. Looking pretty awesome so far. I'll show that to you so you can see how easy that is to read. There we are. Okay, I'm very happy with that so far. So we're going to leave that to dry, and we'll be back shortly. It doesn't take long to dry. We'll be back shortly to do the next part. Okay, we're back to do part 2. So I've actually taped the stencil in place already, and I've got these two little rubber things just holding the stencil up off the words that I did on the top third, just as a precaution, although they are very dry. I let it dry about 45 minutes to an hour. So, and then I cleaned this off, and I cleaned my brush off just so that everything wasn't getting dry while I was sitting waiting for the stencil part to dry. So let's continue. And remind me at the end of this video to show you how to put paint back in the tube, because everybody says you can't put paint back in the tube, but you can, and I will show you how to do it. It's actually really easy. Let's get started on this right now. You want to make sure that you're pouncing straight up and down, because if you're not, then there is a greater chance of paint going underneath the stencil. Just holding it down here in place because I've angled it up with what I'm holding it up with, that I don't want to have any gaps, like I said. Wipe off my finger there because I stenciled on my finger. Just going to put a bit more paint on here. Just going to go over this all very carefully one more time just to make sure that it's well covered. You don't really want any of the undercolor showing through. I want people to be able to read this easily. Okay, let's have a look. We'll take off the tape carefully so the stencil doesn't shift as you're removing the tape, because then you could end up smearing what you just did. And again, I'll save them so I can reuse them for when I do the third section. Okay, and again, we'll lift it up very carefully. And there we are. Looking very pretty. These are actually from silicone ice cube trays that my tray had broken, and I actually use these for when I need some bigger dots when I'm doing dotting projects. So, all right, so let's show you what we're looking at so far. So that's looking pretty awesome. I'm very happy with that so far. And we're going to let that dry for another 45 minutes to an hour, and then we'll be back to do the third and final part. So take a break, grab a coffee. Obviously you're not going to sit here staring at the screen for 45 minutes, and we'll be back shortly. Okay, we're back for the third section, the last section. So I've got it all taped in place, and again got those little rubber things holding it up so it's not touching the rest of the stencil that's already done. So we'll get some blue paint out here. And again, remind me, I know you can't remind me at the end to show you how to put the extra paint back into the tube. Let's get started. I decided to go with the wave rather than the seashells and the starfish. I just thought the wave, I don't know, it appealed to me more, so that's what I'm doing. So let's just get started here. You do want to try and have it sitting obviously nice and steady. It is bouncing a little bit because this little boards that are attached underneath the sign, I guess, aren't sitting evenly. That's okay, it's not a big deal. Let's do a little bit more, make sure it's well covered. Okay, move that out of the way for a minute, and again we'll carefully take the tape off so that the stencil, I'm just going to move this now, so the stencil doesn't move as you're removing the tape. Okay, taking this off carefully. Awesome, looks fantastic. Very pleased with it. So let's just pick that up so you guys can have a close-up right side view of it. So there we go. Let's see here so you can fit it all in. So there it is in full view, and I will bring you down for a close-up in a minute. But before we do that, I do want to show you, like I said, how to put paint back in the tube. So let me just move this out of the way where it's safe. Give me 1 second here. And I will wash my stencil off, so I just tossed it in the sink there for now. So if you have paint that you need to put back in the tube, you want to use a palette knife or even a flat stick will work. Just wondering what happened to the one I was using. Oh, there it is. And you want to make sure that you're holding the tube not this way, because if you squeeze this way, you will get a face full if you're not careful. So you want to hold it so that you're squeezing along kind of the narrowest point. You don't always have to squeeze, but it can be helpful. The other part then is, so you want to pick up some of the paint that you want to put back in the tube, and you want to make sure the whole hole is covered, because if not, if there's any air being able to get in, it doesn't work as well. And you can either just hit like that and see how it's gone back in, or you can squeeze on the side, which helps with, especially with smaller tubes. And you just want to keep doing that, is where you're covering the hole, and then you can squeeze like I just did there, or you can just tap it and the paint will go back in. So now, of course, you won't get 100% of the paint back in the tube, but you will get a lot of it and certainly waste far less. If you happen to put out too much, that's all you have to do. See how it's going back in, clean it off, put more over the hole, and tap it. I find the squeezing from this narrow side helps better with smaller tubes, but even the thumping of smaller tubes works. So either a combination of those two things will get you what you want, which is to save paint and not waste any, or at least not too much. So there you go. I've got most of the paint off of there. Scrape off the top, get back any more that I can get in there, and then you can just obviously take a paper towel. Let me just grab one here and wipe off the top of your tube so it's not all messy. And there we go. And put the lid back on. And you can see there's not a whole lot of paint left on there. It's pretty much back in the tube, or obviously on the paint. So I'm just going to clear this up, and then we will be right back and we will show you a close-up of the sign. Okay, so there we go. There's the sign complete. Of course, I am going to varnish it once it's completely dry, and probably I could do that in about 24 hours, but I might give it a bit longer than that. We'll see. I just want to make sure everything, including the base coat, is 100% covered. I do apologize for the length of this whole video, but I wanted you to see the whole process. I'm really thrilled with it. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I even like that little disc that I made to kind of go with it. But not really, but I still like it. But anyways, love this sign, think it's fantastic. May hang it in my bathroom, may sell it. So if you are interested in selling it, you can contact me at nourishment3, all small letters, and the number 3, at gmail.com. And I'll be happy to talk with you about it. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please hit that subscribe button down there at the bottom. And don't forget to hit the bell notification so you can be notified when I post another video. Have a great day. Bye.